Now I'd like to show you a nice example where actually castling could be done too early. Of course, we have this kind of rules that you should develop your pieces, put a pawn first in the center, develop your pieces, castling, and then you can start attacking. But there are some exceptions to this rule, and I think one of the nicest games from recent times is a game between Levon Aronian and Vladimir Kramnik from the Candidates Tournament. So let's have a look. It's a Berlin opening, very popular, of course, but with the move d3, so a lot of pieces still on the board. After bishop takes c6, well, once again, we also here we have this question of how to recapture towards the center or capture away from the center. Well, here I think it's very concrete, because if you capture towards the center, this could be nice, but the problem is that, well, you have now this move knight takes e5, and I don't really see there's immediate compensation for the pawn. So d takes c6 is actually better, because after knight takes e5 you have this idea of playing queen d4 and challenging the knight, as well as threatening checkmate. So also here in the Spanish lines you always get to see such decision-making problems. So after d takes c6, castle kingside, queen e7, interesting idea. Now white already castled, but it's not a bad thing. I believe it's okay. But now his next move may be a bit suspicious. This is also something you see very often in Italian or Ruy Lopez openings, e4, e5 structures, that white has castled and played this move h3. And this could be a little bit problematic, especially as black has additional ideas to bring up his g-pawn and try to prove that the pawn on h3 is actually a weakness, not really helpful in, let's say, preventing black from developing his bishop to g4. So this is interesting idea. As I said, many examples in Italian opening, for instance. But I'd like to just make you aware of the situation. I'm not saying that white is already worse here. I don't believe that. But it's about the pattern recognition, that you castle early, you play this move h3, and since black hasn't castled yet, it is actually interesting for him to launch an attack with his g-pawn very early, even though he has not really completed his development yet himself. But he could still do that. But the next move he played is kind of remarkable, this move rook g8. I was very fascinated when I saw this idea, and of course it's especially easy to see when it's played, but to come up with it yourself, it's not that simple always. But it's worth remembering this idea, because perhaps you get an opportunity yourself. Yeah, it's difficult to say what is best, but for instance, if you just make a developing move like knight c3, black will actually just play g5, just immediately. And it's already quite dangerous, I would say, because imagine the g-file gets opened, the rook is ready to strike, the bishop is ready to join the party. So not really sure what's happening, but if you take on g5, then there is actually a nice attacking idea with bishop takes h3, and after g takes h3, you will be able to play h6. The g-file has been opened, white's kingside has been destroyed, you can bring your king into safety, black's king is absolutely safe. So this would be awful for white. But white already took some measures with the move king h1. Not really sure you really want to do that. But the point is directed against this move g5, which is not really good now, because after bishop takes g5, well, there's no longer a king on the g-file, so bishop takes h3 no longer works, as there's no longer a pin. So black has to come up with other ideas, and for instance a move like h6, intending to play g5, comes into consideration, but also knight h5, as played in the game, makes some sense. Well, we get to see in the game that white is actually suffering from his development. He is not having a good time in this game, especially his pieces on the queen side are not participating. So it could very well be that it might have made more sense just to get out your pieces quickly, even though I agree with you that the knight on c3 is not particularly doing that much. But at least it facilitates the process of bringing the other pieces into play. White went c3, and now the move g5 was played. And, well, once again, I would have preferred to take my move back. I wish that the pawn was still on h2, so that I wouldn't have to worry about this attacking idea with g5, g4. But it's not an option. So let's say you got to take on e5. Now knight on h5 is hanging, so queen takes e5, queen takes h5 is actually good for white. But black's idea was to play g4. And this is actually a nice attacking idea, because you just ignore this pawn on e5 and you just go all in, having quite some pieces ready. Bishop on c5 is okay, bishop on c8 is not developed yet, but it's already looking at white's king side. Knight on h5 is there, queen and rook. So basically you can say that white has 0 pieces developed apart from the knight on e5, and black has already 5 pieces challenging his king, and especially since the position is threatened to be opened on the king side, it's quite dangerous. For example, you cannot take the pawn on g4 because that runs into bishop takes, h takes g4, and now the queen comes to h4. King has to go back to g1, and there's knight g3. Very cute move, making use of the pin, and nothing can be done against queen h1 checkmate. So white went for the move d4, stabilizing the situation in the center, protecting the knight, closing the diagonal for this bishop. Yeah, you got to be careful, because if you take too quickly on h3, white will actually play g3, and yes, surprisingly the position remains kind of close. So better not to capture immediately. It should be pointed out that queen takes h5 isn't recommended because of h takes g2, winning material because of double attack. So black went for the move bishop d6, preserving his bishop. Now, of course, there are ideas to take on e5, but there are also ideas to take on h3. So you got to be a little careful. Also, queen may come to h4, so white played g3. Not fearing black to take on h3, of course, because then the knight would be hanging. So black took on e5, d takes e5, queen takes e5. And now after queen d4, of course, white is hoping that queens are getting exchanged. Unfortunately for black, this tactic on g3 doesn't really work, because after capturing, sacrificing the knight, you can just play queen e3 and everything is just under control. So, well, black needs to make some additional efforts, but he keeps the queens on the board. White now wants to lock the position, and it's time for black to bring his pieces into play. I like black's next move, because he goes for the move c5, challenging the queen. Of course, a move like bishop e6 could also have been played, but I think that sooner or later you need to play the move c5, otherwise you cannot castle queenside. So c5 is a good move, asking the queen where you're going. The queen went to c4, and well, bishop e6 was played. It's a good move, not fearing queen b5 because of c6. By the way, if you play a move like b6, which is a move some of my students recommended, with the idea of bringing the bishop to the long diagonal, would be a fantastic attacking idea, but keep general ideas in mind, that there are unprotected pieces which are vulnerable in the opening stage. And here, after queen d5, you actually have 2 of them, so that would lose material. So bishop e6 is a good move, with the point actually that if you play queen a4, I will play bishop d7, and now black gets exactly what he wants, because on the next move you are able to bring the bishop to the diagonal. So that is absolutely safe. After queen b5, black goes c6, and well, of course there is some deep analysis here, and perhaps White could have improved his play by playing queen d3. Still, things are not that easy because black will follow up with a move like f5 with the intention of removing this pawn from e4, with the idea just to bring the bishop to d5. Of course, this is very deep, but I'm talking about general concepts, which is important to realize. I don't think that black has to fear the fact that he's opening the center, and that's basically because white is underdeveloped. He's still, his piece on the queen side are not doing anything. But let's see, queen a4 was played, and black follows up with the move f5. Very nice idea. Let me just show you this line. If e takes f5, you would like to play bishop d5, but after king h2, things are not that clear yet. But there's a beautiful line starting with knight takes g3. That is wonderful move. The point is that after f takes g3, there is bishop to d5, king to g1, and now beautiful move queen e2. I like this quiet move. You're just threatening mate. And here you see how bad white's position is, especially considering that he is not having developed his pieces. After rook f2, you play queen e1. If king h2, there's checkmate. And if you go rook f1, there's queen takes g3 with checkmate. So beautiful tactical line, exploiting the fact that white's pieces are underdeveloped, and because of that, they're not controlling vital squares in the center. So f5 is a beautiful move. Bishop g5 was played. Makes a lot of sense to bring a bishop out with tempo, but this got to be eliminated. So h takes g5, and now queen takes g5 is possible, but I like the spirit of Kramnik's play. He's opening the position on the king side. This is very cute. Black's position plays itself as he's intending to take on g5, take on g3, open up the position. Black's king is absolutely safe in the middle of the board, so nothing you can do about it. Queen d1 was played in the game, hoping that the queen could help in defense, but the rook is coming now, and after queen to c1, you're hoping to consolidate the position and try to survive, but f takes g3 is just very good, and you kind of never really take the pawn because there's knight takes g3, after which you regain the exchange and get a lot of material. And it should also be pointed out that you cannot play knight d2 now, because now again black is able to take on g5, and the queen is coming to h4, and that would actually lead to checkmate. So too many problems, and white is still suffering from his lack of development. So knight a3 played, rook d3, rook is entering, fantastic play by white. If you go queen c2 attacking the rook, I can take on g5 again with the same mating pattern in the air. So white played the move rook d1, trying to exchange pieces, but the problem here is that there's a wonderful move, bishop d5, just killing the game. You cannot take this bishop on d5 because of queen e4, check, king g1, I will take on f2, and it's leading to mate in all kind of lines. For instance, if you go king takes f2, I like this move rook h3, which is a cute move. Perhaps there are other moves good enough as well, but rook h3 after rook e1 pinning the queen, there's actually the move g3, and after king g1 it's rook h1 with checkmate. So here you see the absence of white's pieces. They're not helping in defense. So that is one line, but also if you take the rook, there is queen takes e4, f3, and just g takes f3. This is what I like a lot. You're two rooks versus a piece down, but look at this massive battery of pieces, and also this powerful pawns. They are threatening to be advanced. So after g takes f3, there's this cute finish with rook e3, f2 check, rook takes e4, and bishop takes e4. Wonderful mating construction, once again highlighting the misplacement of white's pieces on the queen side. So the captures are not working. White went for this move f3, But it's basically leading to similar scenarios. After g takes f3, if you take on d3, we actually get the same position after queen takes e4. So white took on d5, but now the queen is coming to e2, and whatever you do, it's just gonna be made very soon. Rook e1 was played, and after g2, white resigned. The thing is that if you go to g1, then I will play f2, king takes g2, and I will just get a new queen with double check. It's just made. And if you go to h2 instead of g1, then there is g1 queen, king takes, and the f pawn is running again. And I like the fact that you actually play rook h3, forcing the king to go to g2, and it's again check with a pawn promotion. So checkmate, and it's a nice win. Well, of course, difficult game. I show it because it's a beautiful game, but I want to make you alert for scenarios where you castle too early, especially in combination with already having committed a pawn move in front of your king. You see that black quickly seizes the initiative, and white is more busy responding to the threats on the king's side, has no longer time to solve his problems of development. That is something worth keeping in mind, and you will get a chance to solve some puzzles in the interactive section as well.